Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News. It's Monday, October 27th, 1 p.m. Back in action after a week out of the area. And we're going to talk about the bright, shiny future of artificial intelligence and how most everything they are telling us is probably a lie and is going to lead to what we would like to call digital feudalism. So we'll talk about that right now. Okay. There was a time, way back when tyrants needed armies and flags and thrones and elaborate weapon systems and occasionally dragons. Today, they need none of that to exert influence over the peasants because the new kingdoms are digital and the new lords don't command soldiers, they command servers. Very, very true. So, we're going to talk about how the AI revolution was never designed to free you, as they keep telling you, but only to train on you, harvest you, and eventually control you. So, yet another feel good piece from the people that brought you feel good pieces, right? And worse, they almost convinced us that it was our idea. So, over the last 2 years, the message has been everywhere. AI is going to make your life easier. AI is going to unemploy millions of people. AI will change society forever. AI will take us to Mars. Okay. Well, the one part that is true is it will change society, but not in the way that they've sold it to us. Because here's the truth. We've scanned extensively through a number of different sources, and we're putting it out this way. I think some other people have done similar. Patrick Boyle, if you like him, you ought to check him out. He's pretty good. Those guys at what are they, Hindenburg? They also have some good stuff. But here's the truth part that the tech lords don't want us spoken out loud. AI was never built to replace all of us. It was there to weaken us, de-skill us, and make us even more dependent on things that we don't really need. The real end game is something far older and far darker than innovation. It's the return of a feudal system, digital feudalism, as we say, with a small ruling class of billion-dollar data barons at the top and everyone else down below, not citizens, but serfs on rented digital land. So let's look at the strategy. It's brilliant, it's ruthless, and it happened in three phases. Phase one, and we do this so that you can argue about it later. Once again, we always like to have you send your comments that are not anti-Semitic in topic, but hey, we'll take anything some days. If it's a slow day, we'll take it. Phase one, addiction. They make you dependent on the platform, social media, cloud services, smartphones, streaming, and now AI. Life became unthinkable, right? Without them. Where would you go without it? I personally have been trying to not carry the phone with me as much as possible, but as I have an older car, certain times I have to carry because I am in fear that something will happen and I'll have no way to contact anybody, right? But in general, people carry these things to carry these things, utilize these things to utilize these things with no clear purpose at the end. Mostly, like I said, as entertaining. We're entertaining a bunch of monkeys. All right. So phase two is what we would consider in the business world the harvest. Once we were inside the walls, right, they took everything, your preferences, your habits, your voice, your face, your thoughts, your private messages, and they fed it into the machine. And after they harvested enough human behavior to train the machine, they finally said the quiet part out loud, which is, you don't need your own mind. We will think for you. This was never innovation. I'm sorry. It was enclosure, the enclosure of the modern mind. They built digital castles and we were herded within the walls. More so digital prisons, but we'll stick with this analogy. All right. They keep screaming to you, AI will replace everybody. Hurry, learn prompting, obey, adapt, or you'll be left behind, especially the older people. If you notice, this is the first time any tech stuff has really been targeted strictly to people over a certain age. They say drop out of the world for 30 days and learn AI and become a master because they've realized the younger people are not going to have the basic skills to handle the basic skills of the basic skills. So they need older people to handle that until they can wean the young ones off of the stupidity they trained them for in the first place. Seriously, that's what it's all about. It's not so your grandmother can make a more realistic looking Kamala Harris fucking video, right? It's because the younger people do not have the patience, any level of professionalism, and all that kind of thing. So it has to fall this way. So you ask yourself, why do they want millions of workers trained, right? Why do they need it, and especially these people, to interface with the AI right now? It's because they need the remaining human workforce to teach the system every edge case, every nuance, every situation it can't handle. And this will be done by these people who are now an outlier in modern civilization. They don't want to fire everybody today. They want your mind as training data because before they downsize you tomorrow, they're not expecting to replace humanity. They're extracting the humanity to have the machine learn from it. And this isn't efficiency, it's data serfdom. All right. And the most insulting part, after using billions of us, everyone, myself included, to train the empires, to train the machine, to understand how things work, they are preparing to shut the gates. And they've already talked about it. And I was at a seminar, and the guy said it again this week about how much some of this stuff should really cost. You know, I used a deep dive every once in a while. We'll use a deep dive setting on ChatGPT 5 or whatever it is. It says deep dive. And he said that thing, I think, is should be like $1,000 or a couple $1,000 to use every time you use it. And you get 5 of them for, I don't know if we're paying 25 or $50 a month for our system. Okay. So you can already see it. Like I said, there are paywalls. There's going to be tokens. There's going to be usage caps. The free versions are already telling you that. If it starts to go too far, it says you've outlived your usage on this one. It's going to have enterprise only features, outsourcing autonomy to corporations, not to citizens, because the price points will be high enough where the person sitting at home, unless they have a very good job, will not be able to afford the use of some of these services. And we'll put it back to those of you who remember the old days and when they had to go to work because the CAD drawing features were there, or if you were in the graphic design center, those programs were in the office. They were very expensive, so they never went out. It's going to go back to that. So we'll bring you back into the house. You're not going to be staying at home and having a good time in the future if these guys have their way. The masses will no longer be granted full access to these systems. AI will become the tool of the palace. It's not going to be there for the village. And the more that this goes on, and the less that you can do in the normal world to refute things like regular fact checking or learning how a library works, shit like that, then you're going to have major issues. Can you believe this thing just conked out on me? But like I said, you're going to start to see that because, as we used to say to people, well, go to the library and look it up. Yeah, and they're like, well, I don't want to go to the library. I'm going to go on Google. Well, Google will lie to you. There's no system out there right now that says on there that we will give you a perfectly truthful answer. Some of the things, if you're asking it questions, it'll say, well, we're on the edge of legality, or we're on the edge of this, or we're on the edge of that, right? That it does because it doesn't want to fall into a situation where A, somebody can sue them for it, but more likely B, they don't want you to make the breakthrough that you want to make. You know what I'm saying? They don't need you to make that breakthrough, which will put you on the right track to something. So that's how you deny the intelligence that you're requesting. Now, if you pay $10,000 a year for it, you're probably going to get all the information you ever wanted. So, what do we do? Okay. We can stop acting like subjects, obviously. We can stop believing we must live on their land. We stop trading freedom for convenience because there are three things that we still control. And if we fight for them, then we can win. One is your data. All of us refuse to give it freely. They're going to still steal it, but at some point, there are going to be more of these landmark type cases because not that somebody's fighting for your rights, but they're fighting for some selfish reason of their own, but they're going to cloak it in the mantle of being working for the everyman. You know what I'm saying? And then you're going to have our dependency, which is you have to build alternatives, you have to support parallel systems, use the libraries. If you're going to be a research group, meet on Tuesday night at Sam's house, buy a pizza, and say, look, we have this stuff, and work through it like they would do in the old days. Efficient things were accomplished in production, in industry prior to the computer. We fought World War II without the computer. Okay, everything was designed, everything was built, everything was trained, everything was sent to the Pacific or the Atlantic without the computer. Daunting task. It can be done, right? It just takes a little more time. In fact, we would employ more people, which is what you want to do in this postmodern world, is employ more people so that more people equal better pay, some prestige from having a job, not sitting around like a degenerate all day, shit like that. And then third and most important, you have your voice. You have to expose these tech lord types every time they lie. Okay? The peasants in the old days, they didn't have a choice. We do. You see how fast something can go viral on the internet. If it's the right things that are getting out there, the world will know about them. It's hard to suppress everything. Okay? There's not, excuse me, this is not a moment for fear. This is a moment for revolt. A digital reformation is necessary. You should be talking to your congressmen and senators as things come up. Start to read some of these tech, more fringy tech sites because they're the ones that are, from the old days where they wanted all the everything would be free sharing and all that type of stuff. That was the original idea of a lot of these guys, and they were ruthlessly crushed to stop that from happening. In fact, I forget what the guy's name is. One guy committed suicide, a young kid, because he couldn't get out from under all the problems, and all he wanted to do was have shareware, right? So it's going to start with us. It's going to start with awareness. It continues with refusal, and it ends up when the people reclaim the castle gates of the digital world. So you're going to end up kneeling down at some point if you don't stand up soon. I would say you're going to have to stand up much sooner than you think. We have done a video in the past on the big tech companies and how they are working to basically they finance each other with bad paper a lot of times, and the greed of the American stockbroker class develops the money for them. I'll try to include a link to a recent Patrick Boyle video that explains the cyclical financing of these groups and how they're doing it right now. I think it's very important for you to see this because it's a similar kind of oppression that we had here in the United States where these socialist NGOs were taking money from compromised groups like USAID. And you're like, how do we fight these guys? They seem to have so much money behind them. Yeah, they have your money behind them. They have my money behind them. And it's not out of our choice. Our choice is being denied in all this. As we've said in the other videos, if they wanted the AI that they need, there's not enough electric in the United States to supply it. They're already making deals with the Indians because they know if they go over there and do it, it's the new East India Company. Those people will be living under rocks for the rest of their lives or wherever they're living now, right? for the rest of their lives, because every bit of electric that would be produced would immediately be sucked into an AI system. Every bit of clean water would be sucked into an AI system, because no one's looking at systems that are already out there and available, which we could talk about, I guess, next year if these other programs come online. But you'll understand that they're just going with the biggest, stupidest, most grifty machine because it knocks competition out. They don't want new companies getting into the competition, which is funny because an old company in the competition is probably only 2 to 5 years old. This isn't like Westinghouse General Electric, right? These companies are all fairly new. They really don't have a whole handle on what they're doing, but they are ballsy enough to just tell people that they do, and that you have to tell us what, we're going to tell you what to do. Fuck you. This is how it works. And that's got to stop. So, any other questions you have about this, refutations, other interesting articles on the subject? Because this is going to be something you're not going to see a lot of in mainstream media, because it is affecting, I think, $150 billion worth of initial investment. And nobody wants to be the guy that pisses down that guy's boot, right? So otherwise, have a good day, and we'll have more for you during the week. Talk to you later on.